Hello and welcome to the Penny Dee Podcast. This is for you if you would like to sit for 20 to 30 minutes every month, relaxing your mind and just listening to my ramblings about life, love, happiness and much more. I'm your host, Penny Davis, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Sally.
Thank you, lovely. It's great to see here and be with you. Thanks for asking me.
I am absolutely fascinated in what you do as the charisma coach. Now, tell me more, Sally Ann.
Yes, of course. So I've always been fascinated and really interested in how people communicate, how they speak, how they use their body language, how they connect with people. And actually, Penny, I don't know if I've told you this, but I am actually 80% deaf. So I rely a lot on nonverbal clues, body languages, expressions on people's faces. So you can imagine lockdown with masks was pretty challenging, to be fair. So I've discovered over the years that I've been a learning and development consultant that actually communication is the absolute superpower and engine driver of any business, no matter what size it is. And actually, when you get that right and you get the person to communicate that in a way that's authentic and enthusiastic, then people really not only want to listen to what they're saying, but they can, take people with them. They can influence people in the right way.
And it's really interesting that you use the word influence there, because a lot of times people talk about sales or influencing conversations. It can get mixed up with manipulation. So can you tell me the difference between influence and manipulation?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it's quite an easy analogy that I have in my head. So if I am manipulating somebody to do something, usually in that situation, I win and you lose, and you probably walk away from a conversation, 10 minutes later, and you think, oh, I'm not sure I particularly want to do that, or I really agreed to doing that. You get this feeling, this sense of disempowerment. Whereas if you look at influencing, that's more that you and I would walk away from that situation feeling like we both won something. So we've got to find a way of when we're influencing people to make sure that it's a win-win situation for both people. And then that way, you build relationships, you've got great trust between you, and that's the start of any kind of business relationship.
That is so clear. Thank you for that. Because that is a conversation that happens in sales a lot, that
Yeah,
you are manipulating people into sales. But like I always said, people love to spend money.
totally.
And that is the
Yeah.
truth. So in terms of your work that you do with businesses,
Yeah.
tell me some more about that. Give me some examples of what you would be helping people with.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's quite interesting because for the past sort of 10 or 12 years, I've been working in quite corporate environments, people like BMW, people like ST Microelectronics, various big boys who have got very clever ladies and gentlemen who are either very technical or quite introverted or even extroverted. And what we do is generally, as I go into their organizations and we run programs about videoing them, designing and creating good presentations. Maybe it could be about giving a difficult message. All the time, I'm coaching them and empowering them to do something different. So, for example, Penny, it could be about, smiling when you've got some great news. People quite often go very serious if they're presenting because they're terrified. So, smile. It's great to see that this is an engaging conversation. Or especially when we're on this kind of environment, like a digital program, that we've got to use more of our gestures or our body language so that we can see, feel, and hear the message that you're talking about. So it makes sense. It's more congruent to us. So yeah, I do these big programs. I do one-on-one coaching. I'm coaching a lady this week who works for a huge organization in America. She's at C-suite level. She's in a situation that she's now got to present to the board, who are quite male dominated boards, and she wants to feel more confident and look at how I can support her and able to be more confident in her presentation. And then I also do little online programs as well, which is great. I'm just launching a new one this week, actually. So I'll send you the details so that you can have a look at it and give me some feedback, please.
Oh, I'd love to. So interestingly there, work presentations,
Yeah,
I'm sure, we hear this a lot. It absolutely fills people with dread, the
yeah,
idea of presenting to a room. Why is it that people are afraid of it?
yeah. I think there's, oh my goodness, so many things. And do you know what, Penny? I think COVID threw up a lot of these to a much greater extent. The clients that I'm working with now, I'm seeing more imposter syndrome than I've ever seen before. I mean, look at the UK. It's not the greatest place at the moment in terms of anxiety and fear that's going around. So I think that a lot of the managers and leaders that I work with, they get positioned, promoted into a leadership role because they're good at their job, not because they're a great public speaker. Nobody I've ever met has joined an organization because, yes, I want to be a brilliant public speaker. They want to be, brilliant at electronics or design the next car or doing all that kind of thing. What we're seeing now is that businesses want their people to be great speakers, whether it's a team meeting, whether it's a one-to-one with their one of their team, giving some bad news, giving some good news, whether it's going on a Teams call, or whether it's even presenting to the press. Businesses are asking people, we've got to speak, we've got to be seen and heard more now on these platforms. So yeah, I think we never really, I mean, I certainly didn't at school. I don't know about you, Penny, at your school, but we never did anything about presenting or public speaking or being okay with standing up in front of loads of people looking at you and not feeling judged and not feeling, oh my God, I've not really earned the right to be here. Maybe they're going to see that I'm not this great manager that they think I am. So many things to unpick with a lot of people that I work with.
I think, it's fair to say nobody wants to make a fool of themselves
Sure.
or to feel judged.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that is what people do. So I would think that what a lot of your work is more about how to deal with criticism in your own head to move forward. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, totally. First part of my formula is about being present. So, what I mean by that is that we've got to work out what's going on in your mind. What are you telling yourself? What voice are you hearing? It could be your mother saying, what you're doing. You shouldn't be standing up there. You should be doing whatever. And also work with that mind spaghetti, I like to call it, that you've got yourself entangled in, because actually it's coming out through your vocal and your non-verbal clues.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
Confidence is the best accessory at any age. Elevate yours with Skin Goal Skincare's expertise. Shop at skingoal.co.uk.
Use the code podcast15. Enjoy. Now, back to the show.
So, for example, you might be very serious with the face. You might have a boring monotone voice. So we've got to work on, first of all, how we can get you to feel present and be here and just relax and be authentic. I'm never going to ask them to be somebody that they're not. I think that's so important because people see through it when you are not yourself. They start to, I don't want to say judge. I think that's too much of a strong word, Penny. They start to distrust the message that we are giving. So, for example, if I am really nervous about giving a presentation to my team, and actually I might be really quiet, or I might have my arms crossed, or then I've got to be more confident, so I overplay it, and people are like, who's this person? Where's this person come from? I'm not sure I trust them. So we've got to work on how I can support your mindset to help you just relax and be yourself, and just do some little twists of the knobs and the volumes and the body to just be able you to just expand and grow more, so that you just get gradually more confident with what you're doing. And Penny, I think it's interesting because even the most confident people that I work with, so let's call them the extroverts for the time being, they're good at presenting at people, right? So they'll present a deck of slides all day. What they're not so good at is actually connecting with people and just getting people to trust them. And we've been in those presentations where you feel the difference from them.
How interesting. And one of the areas that I always find interesting, and I was reminded of it the other day, which was the Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, yeah.
How she was told to lower her voice and be quieter.
Exactly.
So how by speaking quieter, or does it just take a lot of confidence to speak quieter to be heard more?
Oh, what an interesting question. So I'm guessing, if we go back to your example of Margaret Thatcher, she had that incredible earthy, grounded quality. She was very good in her own skin. She knew exactly what she wanted in her mind, and she was really driven. And when she spoke, love her or hate her, she was in a really challenging situation, the only woman in a very man's world, and got some incredible things done. Whether people agree with that or not, I don't know. So when we think about the quieter conversations, this is about, well, actually, if you know that you are somebody that just speaks really confidently all the time, like this, in people's faces, they're going to get tired of listening to you. So how can you modulate your voice so it becomes a little more quiet or interesting, and just do that voice modulation? Otherwise, it's too intense for us to listen to you for 10 minutes. Equally, if you've got one of those lovely monotone, gorgeous, boring voices where you're on a call and you think, oh my goodness, how am I going to get to the end of this call? This lady has got this boring voice. We got to modulate it so that people, oh right, oh that's quite interesting there. Now, yeah, I'm on it. So nobody's really ever sort of, I don't think, said to us, oh, you've got a really boring voice, love, you need to change it out. No one's going to tell that to anyone, are they? So apart from
Can you
me.
imagine?
I know.
And another thing somebody told me recently, which I found fascinating, was King Charles's his tick of his faffing with his collars, that it isn't a tick. It is, in fact, a grounding, like an anchoring technique that he uses.
Yeah.
Again, I've never heard of that. So is that something that you would try and help people if they were nervous with? Is that what that's for?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's interesting to see that if you put somebody at the front of the room and you get them to do a presentation, it is just so encompassing for some people, and they've had tics that they've done all their life, which are there, they think, to help them serve a purpose. So you see Elon Musk doing this with his hands. You see Prince Charles doing this. There's little things that people do, as long as it's not distracting us from your message, because you're the message, not your slides or your voice, then it's okay. Men put their hands in their pockets because they feel awkward. Then of course they start flumming around in their pockets. It becomes a little bit distracting, right? So yeah, something that I do is I always make sure I'm standing up where I can for a presentation, because it makes you give more energy. If you're sitting on a desk, you're more slumped. But if you're standing up, you're more likely to use your body language, your gestures, use more of your voice, and you'll get more enthusiastic when you're doing it. So yeah, there's ways of changing your posture, opening your body language more, raising your vibration in terms of being excited. And that, to me, you can see the charismatic speakers when they're doing that, and you can definitely see when it's not there.
Yeah, I would imagine it's one of those things that when somebody is a charismatic speaker and you're enjoying them, you don't actually realize what is charismatic about them.
Yeah, exactly.
But when in its absence, though, you were very conscious of it.
I mean, if you think of somebody that you think would be charismatic, then who would come into your head? What characters or visionaries or speakers do you think?
Well, I often think of people, I often think of Margaret Thatcher as being very commanding of a room. Even Nigel Farage, love him or loathe him, is a very good orator, and he has a good way when he speaks, which is why he holds influence.
Yeah.
Richard Branson is an obvious one. There's something charismatic.
Yeah.
It's that X factor that people have got.
Totally.
That you can't quite put your finger on why
Yeah.
got. I mean, a great example is Darren Brown. Like, like I just think he is amazing. His command of his senses, and I feel like everything he does is unbelievably deliberate.
Yeah. You know what I'm hearing with all those 4 people? They're clever people. What is interesting, I mean, I did an interview recently, And Jeremy Vine started talking about, well, for me, charisma has got this myth in the UK that it's, those British politicians that just sip port wine all day and they're fat and they smoke cigars and it's a bit guffaw kind of stuff. And I'm like, God, that's quite a male, interesting opinion of what we see as charismatic. So, yeah, I think there's something that you're right, Penny, that they have this presence, this energy, this grounding that you feel attracted or safe when they speak. You want to listen to them. They're stimulating us. It's a really interesting subject.
Oh, it is. I'm so fascinated. So, taking it back to everyday life,
Yeah.
and for us to have our voice heard, where in our life do we learn these skills? When do we learn to effectively communicate? And why is it so important?
Yeah, I think this starts from when we're kids. I think this starts definitely, maybe you've had a parent that encouraged you to be engaging. And what I mean by that is that, you don't just get asked the question, how was school? It's more about asking children open questions. How was school today? What happened? Who was there? And start this story, this dialogue all the time, so that they are accepted into an adult society at an early age, definitely. And I think that, I mean, when we were at school, we've all had those brilliant teachers, the ones that we remembered, that made us feel important in class, not because we were very bright or intelligent, because we were there and we were present and we were asking questions and they involved absolutely everyone. Well, that's 30 kids in a school class. Fair play. I have so much respect for them. So I think, if you are somebody that has been encouraged to do that as well, plus I mean, I'm an only child, so I've always been really open and curious about people and culture and talking to different kind of people. It starts to get you to be inquisitive. Travel, I think that's a great way in terms of it's not just about what goes on around South Manchester, what else is going on in our country or in our globe. I think just being really interested in other people, I can't stress that enough, to not interview people all the time, just to be able to find out about them and their family and their culture and, what tell me a little bit more about your business. It sounds really exciting. So just being open and curious about who this person is in front of us without having to butt in the conversation and change it about us all the time, or because I'm asking you all these questions because I want to sell you something. It's about just, I don't know, being open, neutral and curious and asking some good questions. And it's funny because when I go down to London, I'm the nutter that sits on the tube and talks to people.
Yeah.
Oh, you must be from up north, love. Yeah.
And you touched on their storytelling. Again, another feature of people that you find interesting, you want to listen to. They can always tell a story.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think we get taught how to tell a story.
Yeah.
When we're younger. I don't know whether we listen to stories, but there's not much bedtime storytelling, I think, these days, is there, like there used to be?
Totally. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what I thought was really interesting, Penny, when we looked at lockdown, I remember Amazon talking about their biggest seller was this idea of podcasts, because people are interested and curious about other people, not necessarily, the superstars of the world, just people. What's going on in your life? Tell me your story. I'd love to know about you. When I think about when we use storytelling in some of the areas that we do in my programs, it's got to make sure that you bring a story that's relevant, that the audience are going to connect to. And it can be a personal, it could be business, it could be something about our family, because we've all been in these kind of situations. And when I think about storytelling, we've had it, like you say, we've had it all our life. We've had nursery rhymes when we started with, if you went into any kind of religion, you probably had fables or Bibles or the Quran that was all about stories. And we love to be able to associate with something, to feel like we belong in a community. So the more, I think, richness that you can give to a story, telling us who you were with and where were you, and maybe you had a glass of champagne in your hand, I don't know, something, so I can sit and think, yeah, this is really interesting, I love listening to this person. And actually it's worth listening to because maybe there's a message at the end of it, or there's something at the end of it that I think would be quite powerful. It's a great leadership technique. I see a lot of leaders who do good stories to motivate and inspire their teams the right way. Branson's a great example. Yeah.
It's such a powerful skill, isn't it?
Yeah,
For sure.
isn't it? And you know, quite often, Penny, I see the best leaders tell stories of disasters that they've had personally to them. Oh my God, so you know, Stephen Bartlett, he's done that. Oh, I feel quite normal then now. Or yeah, they tell these stories and we think, yeah, I can associate with that. So if he can make a mistake or he can feel vulnerable, then it's okay for me to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So if any of our listeners want some tips on how to be heard, so let's say to get a pay rise or to influence perhaps their partner or children, what would be your 3 top tips for being, heard, effectively communicating?
Yeah, I think first of all, there's something really powerful about having built a really good relationship with that person. So if you, for example, if you're going to ask your boss for a pay rise, have you earned the right? In other words, do they trust you? Have you had some good conversations? Have you given some evidence about why you should want a pay rise, for example? And I think there's something about being vulnerable, being open, listening. I think that's the worst technique that the globe is losing at the moment, that we don't listen to people. We listen because we want to butt in and start the conversation about me. Be present, listen, ask some questions. Posture to me is one of the biggest things. Even if you feel like you're crumbling, as soon as you start straightening your spine and just relaxing and having a little bit of fun with people, people see a different person. They see somebody that's confident and think, oh, right, okay, so this is interesting. So listening, being confident, being present, smiling, building your relationships, having fun, being vulnerable. I think that's one of the most powerful things to see. Make mistakes. It's okay to do that. And yeah, just remember things about people, not just that, they support Manchester City, for example, that, their family, their career, their goals, their what's going on in their life at the moment. The more we can help people feel, actually, I'm just like you, I think the more charismatic we become.
And in terms of any communication, how much of it is verbal and how much of it is body language?
Great question. So there's a phrase that you can see quite a lot on various YouTube channels that they talk about, that if you are congruent when you are giving a message. Alba Morabian, big professor, did lots of studies in companies about communication, and it basically said that if you are congruent with your message, so for example, I'm really excited to be here, thanks for having me on the show, Penny, you can see that my body language and my facial expressions and the energy and the tonality in my voice is saying that rather than, oh, I'm really excited to be here, Penny, and yeah, I love your show. It's really good. There's something about, actually, you're not trusting me, so your brain is saying, actually, she's not congruent, even though the words are there. I'm so busy watching her body language and her facial expressions and her energy, I don't believe her. And that's when people lose sales, lose people, lose teams, people quit businesses.
Right.
When it's fake.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So you've got to find those authentic things within yourself too.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it would be quite stressful trying to play a part all the time.
Exactly. Do you know, Penny, the amount of managers and leaders that I speak to that say to me, well, Sally Ann, I'm completely different at work than I am at home. And I say, God, that's really interesting. What do you mean? Well, I have to be this strong, determined, a lot of male people say this, by the way, I have to be this completely different person and I have to be strong and don't, I'm like, okay. I said, well, it must take a lot of energy, first of all, on your behalf to be two completely different people. Plus, I also really believe that people see through that.
Yeah.
because once they catch you being somebody else and you're different at work, then where is the real you? Who am I dealing with here? Yeah.
I think that reminds me of when people go, oh, well, it's just business, if to excuse dreadful behavior, but you are the business, that's you. So you can't just, you're not two people.
Completely. Exactly. Yeah. I always remember years ago, I don't know if I told you, I used to be a flight attendant, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember we had this quite interesting, how can I put him? Should I say charismatic for the sake of your listeners?
Yes.
Gentleman who, of course, on our flights was quite domineering and strong, and we were all a little bit scared of him, if I'm really honest with you. And then I remember him coming on the flight when on holiday with his wife, and I kid you not, she spoke for him the whole time. And it was like this mouse was sitting here and thinking, where have you gone, my friend? This is so, yeah, I thought that was such a lovely classic example of being two different people.
Absolutely. And which speaker is the one that you like to listen to? If you need pumping up, who do you go and listen to?
Yeah, Obama and Michelle Obama have always made a real lovely impression on me. I love the way he connects with people at such an authentic level. At any level, he will be able to walk in and just speak to different people all the time. I also love the controversial ones as well, actually. I mean, I grew up with Madonna. She was always quite interesting for me to listen to because she was outspoken, she was different, she was really interesting to talk about female and how different we can be and how we're allowed to be. I actually quite like listening to Stephen Bartlett. I think he's got some really good things to say. I think his Diary of a CEO is quite interesting on his podcasts. In terms of women at the moment, I love Amy Cuddy. I don't know if you've met Amy Cuddy. She's written a great book called Presence. Sheryl Sandberg, she used to be quite good. She's dropped off the radar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some really good ones that are speaking on LinkedIn as well. TED Talks for me, there's some really good ones on there that you'd never have heard of. They come along there with their life stories and you're like, oh, wow, that's incredible to listen to. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to check some of those people out actually, because I sometimes struggle to find if I need a bit of inspiration or if I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I think, I just need to get my inspiration on. And I do struggle sometimes. I end up listening to TED Talks like you, actually.
Of course.
But there is some dross on there as well.
Yeah. Isn't there? I know.
Yeah, interesting. So final tip for anybody who just wants to find their voice, what do they need to do first of all? They're like, I wish I could just get my message over.
Oh, yeah.
Should they write a list first? What about what they want to get over? What's a good way of going about it?
Yeah, completely. I think there's something very powerful about working with somebody like me because you've got a safe pair of hands to give you some feedback, to help you, to take you through various structures or ideas that we know are going to work for you. I think secondly, one of my biggest tips is I want you to think about who is your audience that you're speaking to. So many times we go and listen to people make a presentation, you think, this has nothing to do with me. I don't actually know why I'm here, kind of thing. So, I appreciate that you can't do research on 300 people all day long in your audience. What you can do is find out a little bit about their industry or what's important for them at the moment and start to formulate your words, your presentation, your slides about the keywords that would inspire them and get them to listen to you. So what are they interested in at the moment? Who are they? Where are they going? How could you help them? I think there's also something very powerful about just practicing recording yourself in front of a mirror. Put something powerful on that you like to dress in. I've always got my red jacket on. I love it. I don't know, it just gives me a sense of empowerment. Something that you feel good in that would take away any distraction of your nerves. We've got to work on your nerves, most importantly. Hydrate yourself. That's the most important thing. Take anything out of your hands that could be distracting, like a pen. We see this all the time, people clicking pens and what have you. Minimal amount of slides. Don't put loads of data on a slide or lots of, detailed information, because as soon as you put a slide up, we're not listening to you. We're reading your slide. So, and people use slides as their crutch. And actually, I can watch a YouTube. I don't need to listen to you. I can watch a YouTube of your slides. I'm more interested in you. You're the expert in this business. Tell me more about you. So yeah, use stories, use examples, bring evidence, have some good openings and closings, open your body language, relax, have fun with it, and make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think honestly, make mistakes, because the more you do that, people will not judge you. And actually, once you've done it once, you think, I've had some epic fails. Epic. Yeah. And nobody ever says, oh God, she was so rubbish because she, the phone started ringing halfway through a presentation.
Yeah.
Because we've all been there, haven't we? We're human. So yeah, the more that you can just be vulnerable, I think, Penny, and be a human being. Yeah.
I remember a great bit of advice I got very early in my corporate career.
Yeah.
And it was when you're presenting a sales proposal, if you don't know the answer, just go, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to write it down and come back to you.
Yeah, perfect.
And it's such a great, almost distraction technique for you to catch your breath and write it down.
Yeah.
But it looks like you care and you're taking it away because you're not going to know everything. And it always stayed with me that
brilliant.
It's a very authentic,
Yeah.
thing to do.
Penny, you've just made me think as well. Another tip that I'd love to give people is to slow down, because we tend to overspeak and speed up so much when we are nervous, when we are feeling a bit out of our comfort zone. So pauses are a really great way to give your brain a little bit of a rest, and for people to also have a rest listening to you. They can be such a powerful tool to use.
I think it's interesting that you've mentioned twice there about giving your audience a break, because you said about, if you're too high energy a speaker, that it gets exhausting for people to listen to you. And same with that, people want to catch their breath when they're listening to you as well, which is I've never thought about that before.
Of course they do. Penny, honestly, if this is any use to people generally know if they've got a really quick speaking voice. They get told it all the time, right? And what I want them to think about is, imagine that you are a train on running down the track really quickly, and your message are people in that carriage. Unless you slow down for us to get on at the station, to get on your carriage with pauses or by slower speed, you're halfway across the country and we've not been able to get on your train at the first station. And you can see that a lot when you think about presentations. People can be still on slide 3 and you're on slide 7, but they're still trying to work out what you said. What was it you said on slide 3? Then they start asking their mate next to them, and then you see that and you think, oh God, they don't like me. They're judging me. So slow down, put your pauses in, and help people to connect with your message.
That's fantastic advice. So if anybody wants to work with you, Sally, or just find out more about what you do, what do you offer people and where can they get hold of you?
Oh, Penny, thank you. So yeah, my website is sallyannsmith.com. And I run a series of opportunities for businesses. I tend to do a lot of one-to-one exec coaching at the moment. I also do group work. So at the moment, I've got a program this week. We've got 2 half days with a group of scientists, which will be interesting. So we've got 2 half days booked in where we do some presentations, we do some filming, we create some great structure to our presentations as well. I love doing that. I've also got my signature program, which is 6 weeks to speak. That's obviously a 6-week program that we do one-on-one, just like you and I now, Penny, where we work on what is it that you need to focus on. What's your signature presentation? It could be, like you say, your elevator pitch. It could be your sales pitch. It could be you're presenting to the board, or it could actually just be that you want to go on Facebook Live, but the whole thing terrifies you. Yeah, SallyAnnSmith.com. You can find me on Instagram, the Charisma Coach. So yeah, it's creating a lot of interest, what I do, which I'm excited about, because my dream is to get the UK and the globe speaking and being confident and being okay in their skin and warts and all, just presenting and being okay.
What a goal. I love that.
No pressure, right?
No pressure for the world. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I've had a great time. I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, I would love to hear back from you. So all that leaves me is to say, have fun, be happy, and join me next time. Don't forget to hit subscribe for all of my episodes.